And you call that a defense? This is why we're done, darling.
You're simply not equipped for this.
The night began quietly with the kind of intimacy that comes from habit rather than passion, and I mistook that familiarity for disappointment. I lay beside him feeling restless, comparing silence to boredom instead of peace, unaware of how dangerous that comparison would become. When he reached for me gently, the way he always had, something sharp rose in my chest instead of warmth. I laughed, not because something was funny, but because cruelty sometimes disguises itself as honesty. The words left my mouth before empathy could stop them, careless and cutting, framed as truth but sharpened by ego. I told myself I was only expressing frustration, not realizing I was dismantling trust with surgical precision. His reaction was quiet, and that quiet unsettled me more than anger ever could have. He did not argue, defend himself, or demand an apology, which I interpreted as weakness instead of restraint. I turned away believing I had won some unspoken argument, blind to the fact that something irreversible had shifted. That night, the distance between us became permanent even though we lay inches apart. The days that followed felt normal on the surface, but something beneath the routine had hardened. He became observant in a way that felt calm and unsettling, like someone gathering facts rather than feelings. I mistook his silence for acceptance and continued living without reflection or remorse. In truth, silence was giving him space to see me clearly. Conversations grew polite, stripped of warmth, and I blamed stress instead of accountability. I did not notice the careful way he began separating our shared life into personal pieces. Small changes appeared, subtle but deliberate, like locks quietly reinforcing boundaries. I remained oblivious, convinced that comfort was permanent. I spoke carelessly again one evening, joking with friends, replaying the same narrative I had started in private. Laughter followed, and I basked in the attention, not seeing the cost accumulating. Across the room, his expression never changed, but his eyes told a different story. He was not embarrassed, not angry, just finished. That was the night everything truly ended, even though I did not know it yet. He left early, citing work, and I felt relief instead of concern. The following weeks unfolded calmly, which I later realized was preparation rather than forgiveness. He moved with certainty while I drifted in assumption. I did not question the paperwork he reviewed or the meetings he attended without explanation. I believed stability protected me from consequence. When the invitation arrived for a dinner with friends, I felt confident, even excited. I assumed it would be another evening of validation and control. The table was set beautifully, conversation easy, wine flowing generously. I felt powerful, admired, untouchable. When the attention shifted toward him, I expected gratitude or another polite toast. Instead, his voice cut through the room with a clarity that demanded silence. He spoke calmly about respect, intimacy, and the weight of words spoken without care. I smiled nervously, still unaware of what was coming. Then he repeated my words back to me, exactly as I had said them. The room froze, laughter evaporating into discomfort. He did not exaggerate or insult, only reflected my cruelty with precision. Hearing my own words stripped of humor felt like being exposed without clothes. I tried to interrupt, to laugh it off, but he continued steadily. He explained how those words changed everything, how intimacy dies when mockery replaces safety. The silence that followed was unbearable. Eyes avoided mine, not out of judgment, but understanding. He stood, thanked everyone for coming, and left without another glance. I sat frozen, realizing too late that confidence without kindness is self-destruction. Afterward, apologies flooded the room, but none could reach me. The damage was done publicly and permanently. Returning home felt like entering a stranger's space. His belongings were gone, removed with intention rather than haste. A note waited, short and unemotional, explaining that distance was no longer negotiable. I felt panic for the first time, real and consuming. I tried calling, texting, explaining, but silence answered every attempt. The silence felt deserved. Days turned into weeks filled with regret that arrived too late to matter. I replayed that moment endlessly, wishing I had paused before speaking. Friends grew distant, not cruel, just unwilling to be involved. I learned how quickly admiration dissolves when accountability appears. The practical consequences followed without mercy. Comfort disappeared alongside illusion. I downsized my life unwillingly, trading luxury for survival. Each step downward forced a reflection I had long avoided. Work became unbearable, whispers replacing respect, reputation proved fragile. When the separation finalized, it felt clinical and final. There was no drama left to fuel denial. I tried dating briefly, searching for the validation I once chased. Nothing filled the absence of trust I had destroyed. Loneliness arrived honestly, without distraction or illusion. It demanded introspection rather than escape. I began therapy not to fix the marriage, but to understand myself. Uncomfortable truths surfaced slowly and painfully. I learned that cruelty disguised as honesty is still cruelty. I learned that intimacy requires safety more than excitement. Months passed and I rebuilt modestly, carefully. Humility replaced arrogance. I stopped seeking attention and started seeking growth. That change felt unfamiliar but necessary. Occasionally, I saw him from a distance, living quietly, confidently. He looked lighter, unburdened. I understood then that his revenge was not humiliation, but removal. He reclaimed his dignity by refusing to stay where it was denied. The hardest realization was that he did not destroy me. I had done that myself long before. Time softened regret into responsibility. That responsibility became grounding. I no longer blamed boredom or dissatisfaction. I owned my choices fully. The lesson remained permanent and humbling. Words spoken without care cannot be retrieved. Mockery kills intimacy faster than infidelity. Respect once lost rarely returns. My life became quieter, simpler, more honest. That honesty hurt, but it healed. I do not tell this story seeking sympathy. I tell it as a warning. Confidence without empathy is destruction waiting to happen. And sometimes the most unbelievable revenge is simply walking away with self-respect intact. Thanks for listening, and remember to be kind to each other. See you in the next one.